the atmosphere created by the Glas Haus is definitely the reason why I watched this not once but twice. Now, I will say I actually accidentally watched it the second time. I had completely forgotten I'd seen it. I didn't recognize the description. But when I started watching it, after about 10 minutes, I realized it was the film that I'd previously seen. But I remembered liking it so much that I continued watching it. And I liked it the second time round. Maybe even a little bit more the second time round. I think it was very well developed. The atmosphere is brilliant. And it is very, very eerie. So this was released in 2001. Directed by Daniel Sackheim, written by Wesley Strick. And the description from IMDb sums it up really well without giving any spoilers. I'm not going to spoil anything. But this says, an orphaned teenager is taken in by a Malibu couple, but discovers they aren't the caring friends they seem to be. Now, I will say this is a little bit confusing, the role that this couple plays in their lives. It took me a couple of minutes to kind of get my head around who they were and how they would have known certain things. But once I kind of got to grips with that, it's pretty enjoyable. So Ruby is, I think she's about 14 or 15, and her parents were killed in a car accident. So she and her younger brother Rhett, who is about, I think, maybe 12, have to move in with this couple who used to be their neighbours. Terrence and Erin Glas, the Glas family. They used to be their neighbours in Malibu. For some reason, I found that just wasn't very clear, and I'm still that's the only kind of thing about this that I think is quite poor. I just don't feel like they would have been the next of kin. So for me, that kind of seemed like a bad choice. But it's important that they were far away because Ruby has to move schools, and that kind of plays a part in the narrative of her being at a new school, looking at her surroundings in a different way. I get it. While she's there, it seems like Terrence and Erin are treating them very well. They have a very, very wealthy lifestyle. One's a doctor. They buy the children loads of toys and new clothes and things, trying to make them feel like they fit in. But oddly, the children have to share a room. And this, I think, was very well directed. They are giving them a house tour, and they get to see the home gym and the home entertainment room. And then we see their bedroom, and they're sharing a room, a small room with 2 single beds. And straight away you think, well, hang on, why would they do that? Why would they have all of these different rooms that make the kids share? Do they actually care about them? And that's kind of when I think the first seed is planted to make you doubt the validity of the caring nature of the Glas family, of the Glas couple, if you like. And both we as the viewer and Ruby begin to question their true intent and whether or not they actually have their best interests at heart. Now, it's worth noting that we find out very early on that Ruby and Rhett have been left a pretty sizable inheritance from their dead parents, which obviously they will get when they grow up. Could that be the reason why the Glas family agreed to take them in the first place? It's quite weird because the Glas family seem to have quite a bit of money, but maybe they have some financial problems. I'm not going to say whether or not that's true. There could be other motivations behind their actions, but what I will say is that things become confusing before they become clear. In a good way. Things begin to mess with your mind more, and the certain actions of Terrence and Erin Glas do make you question things before you get answers, and I like that because it gets more and more eerie and you begin to trust it less, and you're never quite sure which direction it's going to take. Something I really loved is that as soon as Ruby thought that there was a problem, she went to see the family's lawyer. Most other films, this teenage girl would try and take it upon herself to solve this problem. She went straight to the lawyer. She did the sensible, genuine thing that somebody would actually do. And I do think that the actions of the characters, particularly of Ruby, because most of it's from her perspective, are genuine, they're believable, the characters are well-rounded. I believe their actions, I believe their motivations. The only thing I'm also questioning is how would Terrence and Erin Glas have known about this trust fund, this inheritance. There are some things in this that I think are not as clear as they could be, but for the most part, I think it's very well developed. I think the suspense is brilliant. It is eerie. It is creepy. It's impossible to know who to trust. As it gets intense and as we begin to get answers, it doesn't get easier. It gets more gripping because certain characters begin to fight back. And that makes it even more challenging for, well, Ruby and of course Rhett once he begins to listen to his sister. So even once we get answers, it doesn't slow down. It just gets darker and more suspenseful. As I said, I watched it once. I accidentally started watching it twice, but I intentionally kept watching it. And even with the second viewing, I still loved it. I started to remember what had happened, but I still felt surprised. I still felt captivated. Brilliantly shot, very atmospheric, very well acted. With the things that I've pointed out, not perfect, but without question one that I am very, very happy to recommend.